Welcome to the Get Fit Guys, quick and dirty tips to slim down and shape up. My name is Ben Greenfield. I'm the Get Fit Guy, and in today's episode, you're going to learn why running a mile burns more calories than walking a mile. In the episode, Does Running or Walking Burn More Calories?, which I produced a couple years ago. You can actually access that just by going to quickanddirtytips.com. All of the almost 300 Get Fit Guy episodes are over there. Anyways, I introduced a question in that episode in which my exercise physiology professor was asking my class while I was studying exercise physiology at University of Idaho an important question. He said, if a person runs 1 mile, do they burn more calories than if they had walked that 1 mile? Technically, the answer is no. According to basic physics, if all you're moving is your body weight and you're traveling by foot, you burn the same amount of calories getting from point A to point B, no matter how fast you get there. However, the true answer is actually more complex, and in today's episode, you're going to learn why running a mile burns more calories than walking a mile, and how you can use this to burn more calories in your own exercise, even if you're not a runner. Now, to understand why running a distance, any distance, burns more calories than walking that same distance, you need to know about something called excess post-exercise oxygen consumption, also known as EPOC. When you run, you consume more oxygen than when you walk because you're moving more muscles at greater contractiles and faster paces when you run. And this means that after you finish running, your body has to pay back that oxygen debt by consuming more calories for several minutes after you finish running. That is a metabolic boosting effect that exercise scientists, like I mentioned, called EPOC or EPOC. And incidentally, the hormonal fat burning response to running is also greater compared to the hormonal fat burning effect of walking. So, while both walking and running burn the same number of calories during the actual exercise, running continues to burn far more calories after you're done. Now, a very recent study at San Diego State University entitled Comparison of Measured versus Predicted Energy Expenditure During 2 Hours of Work and Rest, and I'll link to that study in the show notes, looked into exactly how much more energy you burn when you account for this excess post-exercise oxygen consumption. The purpose of the study was to compare the predicted caloric cost of 2 hours of exercise and post-exercise time to the actual caloric cost of that exercise. I know that sounds like a mouthful, but I'll explain here in a moment. They had 10 subjects do 2 hours of exercise on a treadmill, and they used 6 different intensities and work-to-rest cycle, everything ranging from 3 miles an hour and a 1.7% grade for 30 minutes of rest and 30 minutes of work, to a 2 mile per hour, 1% grade for 50 minutes of work and 10 minutes of rest. So different amounts of work, different amount of rests, different amounts of speeds, and different amounts of inclines as they went through these 6 different cycles. Now, the measured calorie burn for some of the protocols was not significantly different than what was predicted, but for many of the protocols that they had these people do on the treadmills, the measured calorie burn was significantly greater than predicted, about 7 to 15% higher than what would be predicted from, say, metabolic equations found in exercise science manuals. As a matter of fact, what they found was that the measured resting calorie burn was significantly higher than predicted values by about 24 to 46%. So what does this all mean? Basically, here's what the researchers concluded. The increased caloric costs during the resting component of exercise is believed to be due to post-exercise oxygen consumption. These results suggest that predictive formulas significantly underestimate the total calorie cost. Work-rest cycles utilized in an occupational setting may underestimate the total amount of work performed and result in chronic calorie deficits. What this means is that you're actually burning more calories than you think you are when you are running on a treadmill or running anywhere else because you continue to burn more calories after you've finished exercising. So just to throw around a few numbers at you, a group that did, for example, 3 miles an hour at a 1.7% grade for 30 minutes of work, followed by 30 minutes of rest. When you calculate the total number of calories burnt during those work and during those rest periods, these folks were predicted to burn 385 calories, but they actually burnt 432. So, does this mean you always have to do something like high intensity interval training on a treadmill when you exercise? Well, not necessarily, because there was another recent study called EPOC following high intensity aerobic intervals and moderate intensity aerobic exercise. This was in the Medicine and Science in Sports and Exercise journal, and it showed that high intensity intervals result in greater excess post exercise oxygen consumption. I got to start saying EPOC, than moderate aerobic exercise of the same energy expenditure, but only for the first 10 minutes post-exercise, which isn't very long. And this means that when it comes to burning more calories during exercise, drum roll please, and now to finish things up. What that study that I mentioned means is that when it comes to burning more calories, it's probably more important to just move fast versus always feeling as though you need to perform intervals. So in this particular study, the non-interval group did 30 minutes at about 50% intensity, and the interval group did about 10 by 1 minute at 90% intensity, with a minute of rest between each of those efforts. And there wasn't a huge difference in the calorie burn post-exercise between the two groups. So ultimately, the takeaway message is this. If your goal is to boost your metabolism and burn as many calories as possible, move fast and move powerfully when you exercise. Sure, there are some times when you want exercise to be relaxing or a form of moving meditation or an opportunity to work on a sport-specific skill, strength, etc., in which case always moving fast might not be best. But if your goal is pure calorie burn, intensity is key. So if you have more questions, comments, or feedback about why running a mile burns more calories than walking a mile, simply join the conversation over at facebook.com/getfitguy. That's facebook.com/getfitguy. And until next time, I'm Ben Greenfield, the Get Fit Guy, asking you, what are you waiting for? Go get fit.